show me all the blueprints. It's a huge success.
I came across a really, really interesting business opportunity.
Beyond the Blueprints. Hi, it's Cailey Heaps. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprints. Today we're speaking with Maggie and Melody Adhami, who are both amazing entrepreneurs in the city of Toronto. They are sisters. They were raised by what sounds like a fierce entrepreneurial woman. They are mothers, they are innovators, and they are fellow YPOers. Take a listen. So you're both well known in the world of tech and fashion and uber successful. When you were growing up, did your upbringing have an impact on your desire for success, or is it self-driven?
Oh my gosh, such an impact. If you met our mother, you'd be like, yep.
Oh, really?
We are probably the carbon copy of our mother.
And what does she do? Is she uber successful as well?
So entrepreneurial. She's done everything and anything you can think of. A self-starter, started, scaled multiple businesses, always like, a risk taker. Wow. And so I think growing up as children, that was a really big part of our upbringing, really ingrained in who we are.
I think for me, there was a moment where I think I took the biggest learning from her. In what was it? It was probably 2009. Sep and I, my husband and I, started our very first business. But before we did, we were both employed. And one of the things, and so we got married, we went on a honeymoon, we get back, and Sep's like, okay, I think we should start our own business. And I'm like, dude, this is a bait and switch. You're a director, you have a job, all of a sudden you want us to be unemployed, have no money. Like, what are you talking about? We're like just entering into this thing called life, and you want us to be poor. And so he was actually, I think, really smart and strategic, and he's like, I think we should talk to your mom about it.
Wow.
And then, so then we went to my mom, and we're like, so here's the situation. We sort of both have good jobs and whatever, but, this is, Sep, we have this idea. We want to have this mobile software business. Mobile's really new right now, and we think, it's going to be a thing. And then my mom's like, yeah, right now's the time to do it. You're never going to have this opportunity again. You don't have children. You don't have a lot of, things that you're tied down to. You don't have big responsibilities in life right now. So if you're ever going to take this kind of a risk, right now is the time. Yeah. And then she said, what are you afraid of? What are you going to lose? I mean, at that time, I think we had a condo with $50,000 down payment. So we were like, I guess the worst case scenario is we move into our parents' basement, my mom's basement. And that wasn't a really bad alternative for us. So it was really worth the risk. And
That's great advice, though.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose?
We didn't have, it was like, look at what you might be giving up and then see if it's worth the risk. And then at that time, I didn't have mouths to feed, and we had a support system or a backup that we could depend on. And so we said yes. And
how did that work out for you?
I mean, it worked out pretty well. We ended up building Plastic Mobile. We sold, 7, 8 years later to a massive conglomerate. Havas or the Vivendi group, and the rest has been history. It was definitely a great success story.
And then from there, and I don't know the whole bio here, so I know that when we met, you had just started one of the first private COVID clinic, which I used often during that time of my life. Yeah. So you sort of chase the business, it's not necessarily driven by it's where you see opportunity.
Well, so. It kind of happened, right? So exactly at 2020 it wasn't the end of our earnout, but our earnout had ended a couple of years before. And at that point, Sep had already left that previous business, but I was there running it. And in 2020, COVID hit, and I sort of had a moment of reflection. I wasn't learning a lot. I can do the job with my eyes closed. I didn't feel really great in what I was contributing and learning to myself. So it was like, I'm gonna take a sabbatical and just figure out what 2020 looks like. The whole world's shut down anyway. It's a perfect time to sort of slow down. And then 15 days later, another YPOer, Dave Diamond, reaches out and he's like, hey, we have this thing and we want to do this thing. You guys do software. And so we started building software to gate people, and then eventually realized the real need in COVID is testing, because people can't travel, people can't go see their families, and we actually had instances where people were trapped. Yeah. And so that's how we sort of serendipitously fell into the health space and into FH Health, and it ended up being a huge success and a huge need, because I think there was a demand for it.
Good for you. So I also remember, I'm going to get to you in 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
I also remember when we first met, we were talking about how to transition, as COVID was sort of ending. I know it's not over, but it's less prominent in our lives, about transitioning to an STD clinic so that people who were on dates could like go and get tested in real time and decide if they were going to connect physically. Did you ever do that?
Well, we have a business that's spun out of that called Wellness House, and at Wellness House we really do focus on wellness, and so part of that is proactive testing. So we offer STD testing and other types of testing, but along with other wellness services and private medical services and things that I think contribute to a more holistic health.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, and Maggie is the queen of fashion. So tell us a little bit about your business. So it's a tech-based fashion business, and is it more tech or fashion?
It's more tech. From a consumer perspective, it's definitely more fashion. From a business perspective and the way we run it, it's obviously more tech because everything that underlies it is technology. Very similar to Melody. I spent my entire career in technology.
Okay.
So no retail background, no fashion background, outside of it just being a passion of mine and something that I've always loved outside of work.
Yeah.
And so actually I was doing a master's at Harvard. And as a part of that master's program, the last course I did was a social media course. And part of it was you had to build a brand. Oh. And I remember the prof told me, if you're going to build a brand for yourself online, don't make it something that you do in your everyday job because it's going to be boring and you're not going to want to do it. Pick something that you love. So I was like, all right, I'll start like a fashion blog because I was working in mobile, but I was like, I'll start a fashion blog. And it just became this thing that I loved. I did on the side. I maintained that blog so much so that it was like I was like a micro fashion influencer by night, and by day I was like a tech guru. Yeah, literally. I was working like as a VP of operations in tech, and at night I was doing this micro influencing. And as I was doing that, I came across this trend in Asia, which was live shopping.
Okay.
Obsessed. I became literally obsessed with it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It consumed like everything I did, to the point where as a tech person, I'm like, well, does this exist in Canada? Does it exist in North America? Can it be done in a better way? And mimicking off what Melody said, I had my mom in my head being like, what do you have to lose? Yeah. Mind you, at the time, I had 3 children.
Okay, so a lot.
A lot. I had 3 children, a house, a husband. But I was like, what is the worst case? I quit my job. I lose salary for 1 year. Yeah. It doesn't work. We'll be fine. Yeah. And so I literally did exactly that. I tested it, did like testing in the market to see if I can find product market fit, and then eventually quit the job and went full force. Yeah.
Empire. And are you still in touch with that prof? Like, do they know that they sort of motivated you?
No, I probably should be.
Yeah, maybe send them an email.
Yeah, let them know. Thank you. You started a literal whole business.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
When you look, so we've talked a lot about your mother. Is your father also around and entrepreneurial, or is he sort of less risk aggressive?
I think I would say my dad's the opposite of my mom.
Oh, really?
He's an accountant by trade.
Oh, conservative.
Very conservative. Totally calculated. Yes. Like every risk that our family took, like we're from an immigrant family, so like, come here, sort of build a life. But, as they were just sort of working and building a life, every risk that they took in their life was my mom. So she would have these side jobs and she'd raise this money and she wouldn't even tell my dad about it. And then one day she's like, I think we should buy a house. And he's like, well, we have no money to buy a house. And she's like, no, I've saved $100,000.
Oh, my goodness. She's amazing.
So she just like did these things where like she allowed my dad to come along into the next risk-taking sort of part of the business. I mean,
so he was more like the anchor.
Yeah, he was the anchor, super hardworking, totally holding the family down and really like foundational. Yeah. And she, sort of took the risks. Okay. So I think that made a pretty good team.
And is that unique? I don't know your cultural background, where your family immigrated from, but is it common in that culture for the women to be more risk aggressive?
I would say Iranian women are powerhouses.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all you had to say was I gotcha. Yeah.
It's very matriarchal culture.
Strong women. Very strong women.
Even if you just look at what's happening politically there's like revolutionary movements that are started and sparked by women and taking off their, like risking their lives to sort of move the revolutionary thing forward. Yeah. So I would say Iranian women are built.
They're very strong.
Yeah. Even though I would say always in society, they're sort of held back home. Mm-hmm. At home, there's a lot of decision-making and power that comes from the matriarch. Yeah. I mean, that's how it was in my house, for sure.
And our culture in general is very entrepreneurial. So
yes.
regardless of women being powerhouses, in general, Iranians are very entrepreneurial.
Yeah. We were just talking about it actually, and as it relates to real estate, the Persian community is like the most active in the luxury segment of Toronto real estate.
Yeah.
There's been a huge influx of Iranians. It's great. It's like such a great addition to the fabric of Toronto. Okay, we're all in YPO together, and before we started filming, we were talking about how few women are in YPO. We don't need to get on a political soapbox, although we can. But what do you think the women in YPO have in common? Like, how did we get there and so many women haven't?
You know, I think, like, if I look at the women that are, you know, around us in YPO, I think they're strong women. I think they're steadfast. I think they're strong. I think a lot of them take a lot of risk. I think there's a ton of those factors built into the women I see around me when I'm in YPO. I think it's unfortunate we don't have more.
Yeah.
But I think that's like, once women start to get a seat around the table, then I think we can start to do more of the work. Like, so I'm on the board of in our Toronto chapter, and you know, one of the mandates is how do we get more women? How do we recruit more women? How do we find more women? And so it has to become part of the active role someone like us on the board take to increase that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know really why. I don't know if it's because our risk profile is different than other women, or have you ever felt imposter syndrome?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know a woman that hasn't. I mean, there are days that you feel it, and then there are days you're like, obviously, I've earned this. I am where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I think it's, you know, innate in women to feel like, am I here for the right reasons? Am I, you know, just kind of second guessing yourself? And again, not to get on a soapbox, it's probably some societal, some cultural, some societal, you know, background that has made us feel that way. Yeah. But I think as strong women, as Melody said, it's really on us to make sure that we're empowering the next generation and the generation after that to feel that they can. Like, we spend a lot of time with our girls being like, you can do whatever you want. You can be as successful as men, if not more successful as men. And I think as the generations continue to move forward, I'm hoping that there'll be more progress for women. At least I'm feeling like there is already.
Yeah. I grew up with 3 brothers, so I never really noticed gender in a room until recently. Like, I had no impact on me in any room I was in until I was speaking about this recently with someone. In the last few years, I find that a lot of men have started behaving poorly in terms of like white male entitlement and being more open.
I'm going to call it the Trump effect.
That's exactly what I think it is. I think that's what it is.
I thought we were not getting political.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, let's just do it. It's way
Put
more
it out
interesting.
there. I had to take it.
Just dangled it right in front of you.
You know,
yeah, no, I don't know. I've never really noticed it until the last couple of years. And my daughters, I was on a call with a client recently, and I had them on speakerphone. And my youngest daughter's like very, I don't want to say righteous, but she's very sure of who she is. And I had them on speaker and on mute because I wanted her to hear sort of like the context of some of my days. And this man was yelling at me for like 15 minutes. And I unpaused it or unmuted it and said what I had to say. And I was very calm, but very deliberate in what I said. And I took 30 seconds and ended the call. And she looked at me and she was like,
that is
like,
so great.
A, I can't believe someone would talk to you that way. But B, you didn't even engage. You just didn't even engage. Yeah. And I think that's something too. Like, if you feed it, people want more of it.
The best experience I ever had is at Plastic, we hired a project manager.
I know exactly who you're talking about, because that is like ingrained in my brain as well.
We were on a call with a client.
Do you have any photos or names?
Yeah, I'm not going to say it. We were on the call with a client, and the client was really aggressive, and he was sort of like yelling. And it was obvious he was yelling at this project manager. And then she goes, excuse me, are you speaking to me? And I was like,
that's so good.
Whoa. And then he's like, yeah. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Nobody speaks to me that way.
Good for her.
It was such a power move. And I was like, wow. And she's like an islander. So she's like calm and collected. Her blood runs blue and calm.
Yeah.
And she did it in such a like disarming way, but really got the point across. It was like so impressive. Like,
and he probably just froze.
Absolutely.
The conversation just turned when someone's like, no one speaks to me that way. I didn't think you were talking to me because no one speaks to me that way.
You know what? Maybe that's a lesson for our girls, is being able to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No one speaks to me
I
that
actually
way.
use that on my children now.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. I could probably use that help too.
Like, we're like, why aren't you listening? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't hear that tone.
Exactly. I know you're not speaking to me that way.
That's so good. So you have 3 children, you said?
Yes.
And how old are they?
6, 7, and 9.
Oh, wow. Busy.
Yes, very busy.
And do they seem to embody the entrepreneurial spirit at their young ages?
It's early to tell, but yeah, I mean, you know, they set up their lemonade stands. And
cute.
Yeah, they go around the house and go, can we have a garage sale? Like, what? Random things. Can I take your pillow and sell it out on the front yard? Sure. Take the pillow and sell it out on the front yard. So it's cute. I think
That is cute.
it's nice for them to see, especially as a female figure, it's nice for them to see the female figure being really strong and entrepreneurial and working. And so I hope that they pick some of that up like we did with our mom.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will happen. We didn't think about it.
No,
It
it's
just,
innate, yeah.
100%. It was fully innate and just ingrained in who we are because of how we were raised. So I'm hoping they'll be the same.
And is their dad equally entrepreneurial?
No.
Oh, interesting. So he's like more safe,
It's
like your
a
dad.
perfect balance. Yeah,
Okay.
he's less risk averse than my father, but not as entrepreneurial for sure.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
well, that's a nice balance.
Yeah, it's a
then.
great balance.
And how many kids do you have, Mel?
I also have 3 kids.
Oh, wow, you guys are busy. I have 3 too.
There you go. There's like
We have
9
some sort of
babies.
sports team amongst us
I know,
for sure.
right? Yeah. And how old are your kids?
Mine are 11, 9, and 7.
Okay, so close.
Yeah, they're very close, yeah.
And Sep is also entrepreneurial.
Yes. Yeah.
So-
So, we're not like Maggie.
If your kids are not entrepreneurs later in life, I will be so shocked.
Yeah.
It might be the case. You know when two
They'll go the
yeah.
opposite.
You know when
Yeah.
like your parents, like when your parents smoke, then the kids are
Yeah.
so anti-smoking.
so true.
That's what's going to happen. They're going to be traumatized
Yes.
by like maybe the amount of
Possibly.
work we do or how
I don't know.
you know.
I was raised by 2 entrepreneurs, and all of us, like my brothers and I, are
like
all
that.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So I think
so it's possible.
It is possible.
They definitely, I mean, their personalities, I think, would fit. I think maybe one more than the others. But they definitely see, you know, strength and stuff around them. I was with my admin was driving my daughter to school, and there was like something had happened with Air Canada, and they didn't actually book. I got a confirmation of the flight, and then it didn't get booked, and then my admin was trying to talk, and I was like, no, patch me in. I need to talk to them. And then so like, I basically tell them, I was like, this is unacceptable. You can't do this. You don't have to be back. And you know, my mom has a chemo treatment, blah, blah, all this stuff. And then I hang up, and then later I call back, and Val's like, yeah, I know you had to hang up for another call, but Nava, my daughter, was in the back. She said, Val, you have to be strong like my mom. You have to.
Oh my gosh, that is so cute.
She's like, if you're going to finish this, you have to be strong like my
Oh
mom
my
when this guy
goodness.
comes back.
It's so cute. Coaching.
She was sitting in the back, basically like,
I love it.
I saw your tone and I listened to my mom's tone. If you want what you want, you're going to have to go
There's a
that
difference
one.
between the two.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it
That's
was like-
adorable.
Val told me about it after, and I giggled. I was like, "Oh, okay, they're listening, they're paying attention,
Oh, they
and
see
they're
everything.
observing."
They see everything. So I'm not in the tech business, as you both know. So if you were I always wonder, should I be telling my kids to focus on tech in school? Like, what do you tell your kids to focus on?
I mean, I think we go heavy tech because that's our background.
Yeah.
But then, you know, we have friends that are doctors who go heavy medicine because that's their background. So
Yeah.
I think it's whatever works for you. Obviously, tech is massive and has become a big part of everybody's life. But then there's also AI, and God knows what role that's going to play in shaping our kids' futures. It's so hard to say.
I mean, okay, I'm going to be much harder than you.
You're
I
gonna say
think
yes
I'm going
tech.
to say yes tech.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes tech because I have an experience myself. So when I was in high school and I was graduating and I was applying for university, I went to the guidance counselor and I was like, you know, I don't know where I'm supposed to go and I'm kind of confused. And one of the things I specifically distinctly remember is the first question he asked me is like, what are you interested in? And I was like, what's your favorite class? And I was like, well, you know, for the first time in grade 11, I took a computer programming course and I really enjoyed it. Like I loved doing it. And then he looks at me, he pauses for a second, he's like, that field is really saturated. By the time you graduate, there's not going to be any jobs left for you.
Let's send him an email too.
Like,
Literally.
I mean, I'm willing to say his name. No, I'm not going to say his name.
It's a very
Man, he
different
must be
email
like
than your
80 years
teacher,
old
yeah.
now. But like, I was like, so then the next question was, what are you really good at? What's your highest mark? And I was like, oh, you know, biology. I have a 98 in biology. He's like, perfect. Go into biology and go to medicine or do lab or do whatever. And I listened to him.
Yeah.
And like serendipitously, I fell back into tech at some point, but I did 4 years of education. After the first year, I knew it was not going to be something I was going to go
what a terrible
into.
feeling. Yeah.
Like I already knew. So starting in second year, I started taking more business courses and more other courses that I was more interested in. And then I ended up having to do I did an MBA, a business degree, because I felt like I came out of it and I didn't get what I needed out of my education.
To be fair, you are in health tech.
I was.
Just to be fair.
Today I'm in
You are
health
in
tech,
health
so
tech.
yes,
Minor
biology has come full circle for me.
Yeah.
And it is very valuable today
Yeah.
because I understand what everybody says. So yes, that is valuable, but
It was
to
like a
give,
reverse journey.
Yeah, and to give someone to me, I thought for a really long time that was really not great advice because I feel like technology, even if technology changes and today it was coding and tomorrow computers are coding for you, but you're doing machine learning or whatever, there's an evolution towards tech that I think there's growth in there. It's
the
not
future.
going away.
Yeah.
And I think every business today is a tech business.
Yeah.
You can be a medical clinic, but you're a tech business. You can be a restaurant, but you are a tech business.
Well, all of the processes and systems are rooted in tech.
Every
right?
process, every system, every efficiency, all of it is rooted in tech. And if you're going to scale, maybe you can be a small mom and pop shop and not really engage in it. But if you're going to actually scale and build a business that's large and of scale, you are going to need to be a tech business.
Yeah, without question.
Yeah.
So your story about your guidance counselor, my brother went to private school in Toronto. He was the only one of us who went to private high school. And at the
I like
end,
that social experiment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a good one.
I have many questions offline.
No, I can answer it. I have 3 kids with very different educations as well. So, but at the end of high school, they did sort of like that career counseling questionnaire. And it came back that he should be a school bus driver. And my parents were like, so that was a great investment in your
Were
education.
you like, I spent X dollars in private school for 10 years to be a bus driver?
Yeah, so he ended up going to university, and he's not a bus driver. He actually did recreationally drive a school bus, but it was like a party bus.
Totally different.
And then he started a brewery, and now he sells luxury boats and whatever. But it's just the advice people can give you is so wrong. You do have to, I think, trust your instincts a little bit.
I also think the educational system kind of sets us up for failure. I don't know if it's changed, but she had the guidance counselor experience. You don't get enough literacy on the financial side. Mm-hmm. You don't get enough business literacy. You don't get enough entrepreneurial literacy, tech literacy. And again, I don't know if the curriculum has changed. My gut is it hasn't changed that much. But they're not really prepping us for the real world.
Our school still teaches cursive.
There you go.
So
I mean, that comes in handy.
this is from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't even write anymore. I type everything. So this, maybe it's good for mind development, maybe, but
they say
motor
if you write it,
skills.
you remember it as opposed to typing it, but you don't have to write it in cursive. So I just went to just to your point, Nikki, I just went to parent-teacher interviews. My youngest, I have twins who are in grade 9, but my daughter's at a public high school in Toronto. I guess I could say which one. She's at North Toronto. Yeah. And one of her courses is business. So I obviously run a business. She's a grade 9 student. I sat down to speak to her teacher, and he said, well, it's not really a business course. I'm teaching them how to use Excel.
Oh, my God.
And
unbelievable.
How to do PowerPoints. And really, it's just about improving their marks. So this course is meant to bring up their average.
Oh, it's one of those.
And I looked at him and I was like...
I thought that was like theater.
I know, like yoga. I took yoga in grade 9. That was a good one. That was my favorite class.
Business.
Can you believe it?
That
And I was like,
is
so you're not teaching them about economics. You're not teaching them about how to read a spreadsheet or anything. How do you, maybe
Finances,
the kids should be reading the business
accounting.
news every day. Anything.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty confident having met this person, and I'm okay if he watches this, by the way, that he's never run a business. 100%.
They're teachers.
For sure. I know. My dad used to say, if you know how to do it, you do it. If you don't, you teach it. Which is
He's a
not
teacher.
the greatest.
Oh, that's really unfortunate. But I do think that is the problem with the school system. And
the fact that we come out of high school being like, what should we do? It's
I know.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
She went into biology. I went into psychology. Neither of us
You
are
went into
in
psychology. Interesting.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I think I like psychology, and then you're like, I actually really like business.
Yeah.
But nobody taught me that in high school. I didn't have any exposure to it in the ways that I wanted.
And that is interesting. Like maybe we as leaders need to do more in high
I think
schools.
so.
Like go into
Yeah.
the schools
Yeah.
and talk to the kids.
Yeah, so
tell
I
them.
actually, when I was at Plastic, I did, I went to Branksome and I spoke
Okay.
to the grade 7 and 8s, and I did a whole talk about like what I was doing and what my career was and apps and software and technology. I'm like, I'm sure it's just interesting for them to be like, oh, and this is a career too.
Yeah.
Because like other than the traditional careers everybody thinks about, nobody's telling them, oh, by the way, there's an entrepreneur like Maggie who shops for a living
Yeah.
and like dresses people and does this like
And it's
like,
uber crazy successful.
yeah, there's nobody who's, nobody's telling them these things. So I think that is important. You're right. It is up to us to sort of get more out there more and show what is
What we
available.
can do, yeah. My eldest daughter graduated from Branksome, and I would say Branksome did a very good job of providing ideas, like what you could do. I don't know that they took it across the finish line, but at least they introduced the ideas.
Yeah. I would say that the talk I did was an introduction.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything further, but an introduction that I say I didn't have.
Yeah. And actually their guidance program has completely shifted, and I'm super impressed with them. So there's my plug for
There you
Branksome.
go.
I don't work there. They're not paying me. And do you think you'll stay in your current business, or can I ask this question? Do you think you'll stay in your current businesses, or are you constantly wanting to evolve?
I mean, there's obviously going to be, we're entrepreneurial, so there's going to be a point where you're like, I want to do something more or evolve this in a different way. I love what I do. For me, I think it's a passion project. I think for Melody, it's probably the same. I'll let her answer that. But yeah, there'll be a point where, I want another challenge or want to fix another problem.
Yeah.
Once I feel like I have done enough with this and somebody else can take it on. But for me, that's, at least five-ish plus years down the road.
Yeah. I like that you just said to solve a problem. I think that's a great way
Yeah.
to just grow a business, figure out what the problem is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How about you, Mel?
For me, I would say, so we had a big exit, and for us, it was like, okay, what do we do next? Do we sort of like just lay low, retire, sort of live life the way everybody thinks they dream of at retirement, or do we go back and really tackle something else? And it came
How
down
many
to.
days did that last month?
I know, hours.
That's not like 15 days. Actually, 15
Maybe
days.
less.
That's so good.
And I think what ended up sort of triggering is that if I can do something where I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm contributing and doing good in the world, if I feel like I'm learning and there's more to learn and more to do and solving like a need and a problem, then I want to be in it.
Yeah.
I think right now I'm learning a ton. Building a business that I've never been in a field that's new to me. I think bringing in technology and a different perspective enriches this field that I'm in. And
Is this fertility?
Fertility, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people doing
I've
it.
been down that path, yeah.
Yeah, and it comes from a personal space, so and something I'm passionate about. So I think that those are I think the things you need to want to do something every single day, when you don't have to.
So how is your tech input impacting the fertility space?
Oh, it's massive. So like the thesis of what we're building is actually underpinned by a technology platform. So we've actually built the entire technology platform and the EMR system and everything that the clinic actually uses. And the goal maybe one day is to build enough data from what we're seeing and impact success rates, and then roll it out to other clinics so that like
Amazing.
it is a good for everybody.
So it's is it also a database company then? Is
Yes,
it- okay.
100%. Like
Yeah.
tech data is at core foundational to the company.
Amazing.
And we've invested a ton of dollars and time and effort into it. I think this, obviously we're in our first year of business, so the first few years are really foundational in building the data and finding where the actual nuggets and findings are and how we benefit the space. But it's undoubtedly that's our future, which I think is really exciting.
Is it ever?
It's like, to me, that's like transformative.
Is
And
it?
whenever
Yeah.
you get to do something transformative, that's something you can be proud of. So I don't think I'm going to be tired of it. I don't think I'm going to.
Think about the lives you'll impact. I mean, that's
Exactly.
remarkable.
Yeah, it's impactful, right?
I
And
remember I did fertility for years, and I remember the failed attempts, and you'd be like, why? Why didn't it work?
Yeah,
And no one
exactly.
ever had answers.
Exactly.
So,
I think when you build
yeah.
an engineering layer and a foundation, you get closer to the criteria, the pieces that you manipulate, like as a doctor, whether it's the medication or the lab environment or this or that or the media or whatever is happening, you get to isolate for the things that don't work and work on the things that do work. So you can actually isolate and get better success rates. I think that's the hope and that's the end goal. So yeah.
So maybe your guidance counselor was right.
Maybe.
Biology was an important part of this.
Yeah, I'm actually just don't send him the email.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. Some days I'm like, if I understood this tech, I could do a little better. But I'm lucky because Sep has always been a business partner, and he's a software engineer by trade.
Oh, amazing!
So I don't actually miss that tech piece. But if I didn't have that, I would really feel like I was at a disadvantage.
How did you meet Sep?
It's just a blind date.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like the most ridiculous criteria. Someone's like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, and I know somebody entrepreneurial Persian living downtown in a condo, and I know someone who is Persian and entrepreneurial and living in a condo downtown. So I think you guys will be perfect.
Turns out they were right.
I was like, this girl's crazy. I'm going to avoid her. But the next day she came and got my MSN chat or whatever, and then the rest was history.
Isn't that funny? I'm single, so I'm always curious about how people meet because I have no idea how to do that. How did you meet your husband, Maggie?
It's not that fun. In a dive bar.
Oh, really? That is fun. That's like the old school way.
It was totally the old school way.
Yeah. In Toronto?
In Toronto.
Which bar?
Oof, the Underground.
Oh, wow.
The one with the bras and underwear hanging on the wall.
Yeah, that. But yes, the classiest establishment.
You know, on a podcast, you have to paint the picture.
Oh,
There are people listening, and they want to actually envision the stairs going down.
We're going to tell our children, before we had kids, we're going to tell our children that we were both in a library and we reached for the same book and our hands touched. I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, we met at a gross
Stick to the
dive bar.
story. Yeah.
Your hands touched.
Our hands touched the same book. We don't even know what book it was. No idea what book it was. Very
smart book. You got to figure out which book it is, like now, because your kids are of the age. You need to know. Oh, that's good. And how long have you been married?
11 years.
Oh, that's a good long time. And Mel?
We've been together, I think, 17 years now. Yeah.
I made it to 19.5, and then I was like, oh, 20's coming.
I'm going to rethink my life.
It was COVID. I was like,
Fair enough.
2020, yeah. Anyway.
Lots of big changes in COVID for a lot of people.
It was a lot. You know what it was? Is my mom was sick. So I heard you say your mom's going through chemotherapy. My mom went through chemotherapy for 9 years, and my focus was on her. So I couldn't do two things at once. So as soon as she passed, I was like, okay, now I have the energy
To focus on yourself.
to focus on myself. Yeah. And I'm sorry your mom's going through that
Thank you.
journey. It's
Thank
not fun.
We hear.
Yeah. Okay, so if you were to go back in time to like maybe grade 9 and let's say grade 9, neither of you would have thought tech. Did you know what tech was?
I loved tech.
Okay.
From a very early age, and I'm much younger than Melody.
So rude.
So I had more tech in my life.
Much younger.
But from a
That's
very
great.
young age, like as soon as e-com came out, eBay was like its first iteration. Like that's
eBay,
how old I
wow.
am. This is how old I am.
Yeah.
eBay was the first iteration of e-com. I literally started buying goods from China, like mucklucks. Do you remember mucklucks?
Yes, I do.
I love that when I say this, people are like, I totally remember mucklucks.
Yeah, I'm aging
I used to
myself.
buy mucklucks from Asia in bulk and sell them in an eBay store.
Oh my
Like this
gosh.
was my,
Oh,
thing.
so you were like,
She was 15. Her bedroom was filled with boxes.
so you were
Of mucklucks.
born with that, like,
Oh yeah, I was making
yeah.
$60,000 a year as a 15-year-old in high
Yeah.
school
What?
selling mucklucks
Did
that
you
I'd
say
buy from
16 or 60?
60.
My parents, she never
Yeah.
asked my parents for money
Yeah.
because she just earned her own money. She had
my
boxes
children, listen,
and boxes.
listen.
I don't know how healthy that was. It was really just feeding my own addiction of like,
buying stuff.
yeah,
Well,
it
sort
really
of
was.
fed your business too,
It really was.
probably.
But yes,
Yeah.
there you go. Exactly.
So
So
60 grand in
I
grade
loved
9.
it.
Good on you.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. That was
That's-
always online. It was for me. I never understood that it could be a vocation because
Yeah.
again, they don't teach it in school.
No.
And
you
it's
could have
only-
probably taught
100%.
the course in
It's
school.
only later in life that I realized, oh, I really always loved tech. I was
Yeah.
an early adopter to everything. Like it just was
So
who I
interesting.
was. So yeah.
What were
Never
your
taught
mom's
it.
businesses where she was saving 100 grand here and there?
She's an immigration consultant, so
Okay.
she helped bring people from other countries to Canada, and she like almost like a paralegal, but in the immigration space.
Good for her.
Consulting, and she brought lots and lots of families here to Canada, and she, the thing about her, I would say, really like sort of ingrained in my mind is she would bring people to Canada, and these were investors or people who were coming here to set up businesses, but like she would pick them up in the airports. She had like hundreds and thousands of clients, pick them up in the airports, help their kids get signed up in schools,
How
like
beautiful.
just like
what a beautiful legacy.
give.
Yeah.
And I was like, later when I grew up, I'm like, Mom, this is the worst business model. Like, you don't charge for a single thing. Like, these are billable hours, Mom. Like, what exactly are you doing? She's like, no, you get back in like loads later on when you give this kind of thing. Like,
I'm a big believer in that
she's
too.
like, I get these clients that I help do these things. I get like 10 referrals from each of them.
Yeah.
So she was like, and she never did it for the get. She just gave, but she saw that she was getting in the back.
It's sort of that whole pay it forward.
Yeah, like I was like,
who
this
she
is the
Yeah.
worst like business model. You need to, but she never did. She would help them. She literally, I was like, where are you this morning? Oh, I'm going to the airport to pick up so and then so and so's kids need to be registered in school, but they don't really speak English, so I need to go help them talk to like grade 9, I don't know, counselors.
That's
like
amazing.
down to that level of service for somebody who she helps with hundreds of clients.
I wonder if when your family immigrated, when your parents did someone do that for her? Or did she not have that and therefore want?
I think someone did that for her. My dad's uncle was
Yeah, we had some
here
family.
when they came, and they really helped sort of set us up. Like the first few
That's
days,
nice.
we were sort of with them, and then they helped register us to schools. And like, actually, my dad's uncle ended up passing really early, like maybe 30, 40 years ago. But his wife, Victoria, who now lives in Italy, she was who initially helped us. And like just a few days ago, she called to ask how my mom was doing. Like, so like just so kind. And I think that kindness probably left that impact on her.
Yeah.
And she continues to do it for people
Isn't that nice?
to this day.
She's still doing it even though she's in treatment and
Well, she's definitely on calls with everybody.
Really?
She's not taking people to airports and coming back, but she facilitates these things.
what an amazing woman.
Yeah, thank you.
And your dad obviously just let her sort of do her thing and
So
amazing.
they separated.
Okay.
And my mom built her business after their separation, and she was just a huge success afterwards.
Actually, she pushed them into immigration.
Yeah, she pushed
Really?
them. Yeah.
Yeah, he was an accountant prior to that, and she kind of saw, she's so good at this stuff. She saw very early, it was like in the very early days of like Persian immigration consultants. Now there's a lot of them, but there weren't very many then. She saw the opportunity, and so she kind of pushed them into that.
Went to college, took all the courses. Like, it's actually just like a
amazing
Yeah, it was like, and
program.
again, like he was very risk averse. So he's like, I'm an accountant, let me do accounting. And she's like, no, this is what we're doing now. We're not doing accounting anymore. We're now doing immigration.
Good for her.
Yeah.
And the Persian culture, I spent a lot of time with a Persian man at some point in my life, and I was amazed at how tight the Persian culture is. Like
Very.
everywhere you go, there's connection to someone.
community, yeah.
Yeah, the community is so strong.
Definitely strong.
Beautiful culture.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's strong community, and I think that's why, like someone like my mom who supports the community and helps them here and get established. I think that's how it pays back, because that word travels within the community.
Absolutely. And are your children? Do you still practice like a very rich Persian culture at home and with your children? And,
Yeah,
oh,
we
that's
do.
so nice.
We do. We celebrate all of the celebrations and the food.
The food, yeah. I learned how to
yeah.
make pomegranate chicken.
You did. Oh, that's
yeah.
delicious.
Stop.
I did, and saffron rice.
That's
so I'll
amazing.
have you guys
Good
over
for
one
you.
day. Yeah.
Oh, I would love
It was a
it.
self-guided journey, and turns out I can do a thing.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. It's way easier to go and buy it though. Way easier.
It's way easier to call your mom and be like, can you make me?
Oh yeah, there you go. Does
Not
she do
feeling
that?
well.
Yeah, Persian food is tough because it's hours and hours of work as
so
you've
much
tried
work.
it.
It's a commitment. It's
a
longer than
commitment.
most of my relationships,
Yeah.
actually. It's like a real commitment.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. It's not like you don't get to like teriyaki and fry some, chicken.
in
It's like
a
a
grill a
whole
steak.
day.
Yeah, it's a whole day.
Yeah, but I think that's nice too, because it's sort of a day together. And
Yeah,
it's
totally.
doing stuff. Okay, so when you sail off into the sunset eventually, where do you go? What do you do?
Ooh, I'm on a yacht. Is this like physically? Because that's where my head
like
is. I'm
when
on a
you
yacht
close
in the
your eyes.
Mediterranean.
Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'll be
are
on
you
the
with
yacht
me?
next to you. Yeah.
Perfect.
I need to figure out how to pay for it, but we're working on
Same,
that. Yeah.
same. Also, same.
Yeah, yacht in the Mediterranean. Okay, are your kids in this vision, or are they your kids being
Yeah.
educated? Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Good.
We're Persians like to stay together for as long as they humanly possibly
Yeah,
can.
that's
So I
good.
tell my children, when you get married, you can just live with me and your spouse.
Oh yeah, now
Yeah,
how
I'm
do they
sure
feel
that's
about
gonna
that?
fly
Yeah.
with the spouse.
You know what? Right now they're young. Right now they're young, so I get it. We don't want to be married. We want to stay with you forever. I'm like, I know that's gonna change.
I tell them, I'm like, I'm going to record this. I'm going to play it back for you one day. Just remember what you're saying.
You should do that. I regret not recording my kids more. Okay, you're sailing off in the sunset. Set's there. Where are you off to?
Oh, ours is 100%. We have a property up north in Collingwood.
Mel, that's so boring. You
No,
need a better one.
no, that's mine.
Do you know it's winter in Canada? At
I
certain
know,
times
I
of the
know,
year?
I know. So like, it's wonderful. It's like such a peaceful place. I've found ever since COVID, I've found this love for gardening. So
Wow.
She's gardening.
yeah, vegetable gardening, flower gardening. I'm like, it's just become a
During
passion.
off season, do you want to come to my yacht?
Yeah,
Cailey will be beside me.
I
so-
know. Let's do it. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I'll
wow,
visit
you're a
you.
gardener. That's
Oh, yeah.
a huge
And
time commitment.
Such a time commitment, and like we're up every weekend, and we're up in the summer, and I've learned to sort of like build in the watering system so that I don't have to be there all the time. But you know, I'm up there to harvest and
Oh, you've
up
gone
there
like
to
right back to the
plant
roots.
and-
You're a farmer.
Oh yeah, a farmer. Yes,
She's a
that's
farmer.
what I would be. I would get animals. I'd
Sailing
be a
into the
farmer.
sunset is
You
farming.
guys are on a yacht in an ocean. I'm
sounds like work to
raising
me. Yeah.
chickens.
Okay. And okay,
She'll
now
feed
I have
us.
so many questions. Okay, in Collingwood, are you mountain or lake or bay or whatever we call it?
We're actually inland, not on the mountain and not in the bay, but
You're on a
surrounded.
farm.
Yeah, well, it's not
farm.
really farm. It's like I call it a farm, but everybody
Okay.
who comes there says I lie. And
Okay.
it's like a resort, so it's actually quite lovely. Surrounded by forest, but sort of like an oasis. And I have my garden out there. I've got like
You got bees?
my fruit trees. I've got bees.
Got
I
bees.
got
Her
maple
honey's
very
syrup.
good.
My
Her
honey's
honey,
very
like
good.
it is.
Okay.
It is like our happy place. Really.
I would not have guessed that you had a farming side to you.
Oh, I know.
Would you have
No.
ever expected your sister to be a farmer?
Literally,
It happened.
the entire time I have known her, and this just came out 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a COVID thing.
Yeah, it started in COVID.
It's shocking to me. Really.
But now it's like I always like I have basil seeds growing ready.
Wow.
It's just all the time. I enjoy it. I didn't know I liked it. I think I love the fact that nothing becomes something. Like I start with a tiny little seed that is a nothing.
Even that's
And then-
entrepreneurial.
I was like, and this goes back to,
Yeah.
to your
Yeah.
fertility business.
Yes,
all of
like
it,
a nothing.
yeah.
It becomes something.
Yeah.
And so like to see this tiny little seed that I put in this little tray become like a massive plant that's bearing fruit and like feeding people is just so magical. And there's something, I don't know, romantic about it that
There
I
is.
really enjoy.
So I wonder if like you go back. So I'm reading this book, Many Lives, Many Masters. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it's all about past life experience, and it's something I'm sort of opening my mind to. And I wonder if like one of your past lives, you
Who
were-
knows? Like it would be 100% a possibility because the amount I enjoy it is not a little bit. It just all of a sudden ballooned from one tiny little experience, and we're tight knit family, so we spend weekends and stuff. Our kids or cousins are together all the time, and I get so much heat. You're always gardening. You're never in town. Like, stay back.
really ruined my life. I do though enjoy the fruits, literally of her labor.
fruits of her
Fruits
so
of my labor. When I come with
I can't complain that
baskets-
much.
No, just enjoy it. And you don't farm in the city. You don't have an urban garden.
I have a small
farm.
garden. I have a tiny little garden that we put in around the same time in our house. I don't like it's I do a little bit of it, but it's not the same. Like I like the scale of it. I like seeing it. I like that I can plant flowers, and it's just nicer.
The
up
scale's
there.
probably what's really
Yeah,
enjoyable.
exactly. This is entrepreneurial. I don't like a tiny little dinky garden.
Nothing small.
It needs to be extravagant
if we're
and
gonna
big,
do it, we're going
and
big.
grow.
Yeah.
You know.
I hear you. Okay, my last question. If you were to stand in front of the schools we talked about or your children, what one piece of advice would you give them? And I'll start with you, Maggie.
Oh, I have a few.
Okay, it doesn't have to be
Does
one.
that have to be for children?
No, it can be for anyone.
for
That's-
anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, I would say people spend a lot of time thinking about balance. And if you really, truly want to be good at anything, whether you're an athlete, an artist, a musician, an entrepreneur, balance isn't possible. And so I know it's like kind of controversial because people are like work-life balance. It's not possible if you want to be great at anything. So be okay with understanding that you have to put everything into that thing that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Think about the greats of sports, music, art. They have put their entire life and dedicated it to that art form or that business or whatever it is. And so, we harp a lot about work-life balance, but I think it's okay. Let's normalize that it's okay to put everything into your business if that is something that you like and that you want to achieve.
I think that is such good advice. 2 of my children moved out of the house this year, and upon their departure, they gave me some feedback that they felt I had worked too hard in my life. And they didn't say it in a mean way, but just, like your focus has been work. Yeah. And I think that's great advice. Like if you want to excel, you have to sacrifice. And it was never, they're always my priority. I would
for sure
go to war for them. But the time invested is a bit different when you own a business. That's great advice.
Yeah.
For me, it's this is my go-to. I always say the first no is a suggestion.
Oh.
I think
be careful with that these days.
Yeah, I know. So this is not a Me Too movement.
In business.
This
in
is
business.
in business,
Yeah.
guys. This is like no means no when it comes to like physically touching people, but in business, the first no is a suggestion. And I think what that means to me is that like a lot of times we come across problems and everybody's first instinct is that's not possible.
Yeah.
And I fundamentally believe that there's a solution to every problem. Mm-hmm. It's just about how much time, effort, money, brain power you want to put towards it.
Yeah.
And so, like, even the incident with my daughter and my admin and the Air Canada thing, like, they said no. But, like, to me, it was like, I heard your no, but, like, I think you need to go back.
Yeah.
Because, like, you canceled my flight and you didn't tell me.
Yeah, that's a big
almost
one.
at an airport and I have to be home in 5 hours. So... Yeah. And then there was a solution. They put me on another flight. They gave me my money back. They reimbursed me. They did everything. But, like, at first they say no. And I think a lot of people stop at that no.
Yeah.
And, like, I think if you want to be successful, you have to be able to, like, move past a lot of no's to get to a yes.
Also very good advice. I mean, if you think in the course of the day how many times we hear no.
Your question about why we're in YPO versus other women, I think that's so fundamental to that.
Yeah.
It's being okay hearing the no and then moving forward and trying again and trying again. It's like that persistent. Whereas, as you said, a lot of people probably take that first no as, oh, it's a no.
Yeah, it's a no.
I'm going to try something else. Or I'm going to give up.
It's also a learning and failure, right? A lot of no's feel like failure.
Yeah.
But like that like each failure is just like your path to your success.
I mean, I've said it a million times. Failing is like fundamental to success. It's how you learn. Yeah. Oh my God, you guys are great. So now we're going out for cocktails. Not right now. But like,
Cailey, it is 10:41. I'm not having a drink.
But we'll have a dinner. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us. This has been so fun.
It is fun. It's good to get to know you guys.
And for everybody who's not here, I mean, is this live or is this just a podcast?
No, it's not live. It's being filmed though.
Oh, it is being filmed. But like, Cailey has the most beautiful house, guys.
It really does.
With like the nicest art.
Yeah,
So if you need to picture it, there's
impeccable
this like
style.
beautiful, massive, colorful art all over on every wall, and the style is amazing. And she's in the most beautiful, lovely
Emerald green.
emerald green suit that matches her kitchen. So picture that, guys.
And I feel like I live in an art gallery, so I'm very.
I might
very
have to
fortunate.
recruit you.
Okay.
I'm just putting it out there.
Done. I don't photograph well, so you're not going to want to recruit me. Trust me, you'll watch this and be like, "Oh, Cailey looks really different on film than in real life." Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Oh,
It's
my
been a pleasure.